Is there any risk in your mind that the actions that you're going to take at Twitter, which you've admitted freely will upset some people, potentially lead to a commercial impact on Tesla?
I'm confident that we will be able to sell all the cars we can make. I mean, currently, the lead time for ordering a Tesla is ridiculously long. So our issue is not demand, it is production.
But that's at the moment because of the global supply chains and the chip shortages. That's less around electric car demand, which we are expecting to go absolutely through the roof. And you obviously have very ambitious targets for that at Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, even before there was the supply chain issues, Tesla demand exceeded production. So now its demand is exceeding production to a ridiculous degree. We're actually probably going to limit or just stop taking orders for anything beyond a certain period of time because some of the timing is like a year away. Anyway, the frustration that we're seeing from customers is being unable to get them a car, not are they willing or interested in buying a car.
You've said you want the company to be able to make 20 million cars a year by 2030, which would make it the same size as Toyota and Volkswagen combined today. Give us a sense. What does the business look like by 2030 to make 20 million cars?
The 20 million by 2030 is an aspiration, not a promise. And the reason for aiming for something like that is there are approximately 2 billion cars and trucks in the world. And for us to really make a dent in sustainable energy and electrification, I think we need to replace at least 1% of the fleet per year to really be meaningful. And that's where the 20 million units comes from.
And what's the biggest uncertainty with getting to 2030? Is it manufacturing ramping? Is it the raw materials? Is it something else?
There are some raw material constraints that we see coming in lithium production, probably in about 3 years, and in cathode production. The lithium mining and especially the refining capacity and that of taking iron and phosphorus and turning it into battery grade iron phosphate or nickel and turning it into battery grade nickel it's really the equipment. I think the single biggest constraint would be the equipment necessary to convert the ore into battery grade materials. And we're working on that with suppliers. So I'm not saying that this is an impossible thing to address. It is simply one of the problems along the way to getting 20 million vehicles.
Can I ask why you think Tesla needs to grow so much by 2030? Because what you set out in the early years was that you wanted Tesla to help tilt the world away from fossil fuels. And to some extent, it looks like it's already succeeded.
Our goal is to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. And so that's why we want to make a lot of cars and also a lot of stationary battery packs, because the 3 pillars of a sustainable energy future are electric transport, stationary battery packs, and solar and wind, and geothermal and hydro, basically sustainable energy sources. But solar and wind particularly are intermittent. And so you need stationary battery packs to store the energy when the sun doesn't shine. So you have constant electricity provision, or when the wind doesn't blow. So, but you can completely convert. I want to be very clear about this. All of Earth can easily be powered by solar and wind, stationary battery packs, and electric transport. You could power all of Europe with a section of Spain, a relatively unoccupied section of Spain. You could power all of the United States with a corner of Utah or Texas. Now, obviously, it would make more sense to spread this out and not. I'm just using this as a figure of speech, or to show that it is a small amount of area that is necessary to power the United States or Europe.
So, do you think Tesla has succeeded in its goal then, or do you think there's still much more to do?
No, I think that we've not succeeded in the goal. If you consider the goal to be getting the automotive industry to move strongly towards electric vehicles, I think that part of the goal we have succeeded in. That was explicitly part of our goal, is to get the industry moving towards electric vehicles, because they were doing nothing in that direction when we started.
How long do you think you're likely to stay at Tesla?
As long as I can be useful.
And what else is there in terms of potential future projects that piques your interest? You're obviously going to be quite involved in Twitter if the deal goes through, but you've got Tesla, you've got SpaceX, you've got Boring, you've got Neuralink. As you're looking around thinking you potentially have capacity, what else is there in terms of the kind of, betterment of the human condition or improving Earth that you feel you might want to turn your attention to in the future?
Well, I'm trying to take the set of actions that I think most likely make the future good, and hopefully not pave the road to hell with good intentions. So I think Tesla's about accelerating sustainable energy, because we obviously need a sustainable energy future on Earth for Earth to be good. Then SpaceX is about extending life beyond Earth so that we may become a multi-planetary species, and with Starlink providing internet coverage to the least served in the world. Those that are into rural communities or places that just don't have good internet, or it's very expensive. But I think it's important that we become a multi-planet species and a spacefaring civilization, because eventually the sun will expand and destroy all life on Earth. So if one is a true environmentalist or cares about the future of life, it is obviously important that life become multiplanetary and ultimately multistellar. I think we should be able to, maybe get Starship to Mars uncrewed, and then I think if that's successful, then we may be able to send a crewed mission to Mars before the end of the decade. We're making a lot of progress with Starship. We will hopefully have our first launch attempt this summer, or basically next 2 or 3 months. And we're building up, we've got a factory for Starship, so there's a whole bunch of Starships coming behind the one that will attempt launch soon. So if that one doesn't work, we'll have many more behind that, and we're continuously improving the design. So each one is better than the last. And Starship really is a game changer to an extraordinary degree with respect to access to space, because it's the first orbital rocket that is designed to be fully and rapidly reusable. There's never been a fully reusable orbital rocket. Falcon 9 is the most reusable rocket, since we're able to fairly rapidly reuse the boost stage and the fairing, and that's maybe 70% of the cost, but we still lose the upper stage on every mission. So with Starship, both the booster and the upper stage, both the ship and the booster will be recovered, and they'll be recovered very rapidly. And in theory, you could launch the booster 10 or 12 times a day, and the ship, because of orbital limitations, maybe you could launch it 3 times a day, but fully reusable. If it was expandable, it would probably do, 250 tons to orbit. And I think with further improvements, even with full reusability, we can probably get it to 150 tons to orbit. But to put this into perspective, if you have a fleet of Starships with the ability to launch every day or multiple times a day, Starship will do more than 1,000 times the payload to orbit of all other rockets on Earth combined.